Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Sisters podcast. And we have a very, very, very special episode because we have our biggest fan.
Nichole, you're starting shit. You're starting shit.
You know,
I am.
I run my mouth. Chikara, I don't know. Lydia says she's our biggest fan. So
We can take it offline, Shakara.
Oh,
Oh, shit.
Not online, offline.
we have Lydia, our beautiful friend from Boston. I think we've talked about you a few times. She's like one of the Leo ladies that we actually really do love because it's just the men we don't like, but we love Lydia. Hello.
Hello. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. And guess what? We're actually recording in person together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Nichole had the idea of actually having Lydia join because we were going to be together. So it just kind of worked out so perfectly because Lydia actually manifested being on the show.
What?
And, yeah.
I did. I was
Do you
like,
not know this?
No.
Oh, Lydia,
Yeah.
you must share.
well, obviously I've been like watching since day one, and ever since I was like, okay, like I'm going on this journey. This is what's happening for sure. I was like, yeah, one day when I start my offerings, I'm just going to go on the podcast, and I already know all the questions at the beginning. So yeah, we're here.
Oh, wow. You must have taken my vision board workshop and know all the tricks.
I sure did.
You did 2 years in a row.
I did.
Oh, I love you.
Should we do love you. So should we go through the questions and then talk about how we met?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nichole.
Okay.
Rapid fire. You go.
Oh, gosh. Lydia, what are your big three? It's been a while since we've had a guest and I've done the questions. Bear
Leo
with me.
Sun, Capricorn Moon, and Leo Rising.
Oh, I didn't know you were a double Leo.
Double Leo.
Oh, what's that
Leona
like?
energy in me.
Mm.
What's that like? Yeah. What is that like?
I don't know. Don't fuck with me energy?
Yeah,
Yep.
probably.
It's
I
the
think
Boston energy. How do you say Boston?
Boston.
Boston? Are you trying in the accent?
Yeah, but
Boston?
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's how Townies say it. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not me. It's just Boston.
All right. What's your human design?
I'm a generator, 1-3 design.
Oh, okay. 1-3s are so interesting because they just kind of like march to the beat of their own drum. Would you say that's you?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a double Leo.
Yeah. I'm learning more about human design. I gotta get there.
Yeah, same. And if you, oh gosh. Okay, what
Nichole,
are
you
some...
came up with these questions.
I know, but it's been a while since we've had a guest to ask them. Okay, what
them.
are some podcasts and or like books that you're listening to or documentaries? Like, just what kind of content are you consuming lately?
Well, for podcasts, obviously the Spiritual Sisters podcast. Hey.
It's a great one.
I'm also listening to Angel Kelly's, so the Spirit Club,
Hey,
and
girl.
also Anna Rison's the Soul
Ecosystem.
Yeah, the
I
Soul
was just on
Ecosystem.
her show recording right before I jumped on here with you guys.
Awesome. So yes,
Yeah.
those are the three that I'm like are on my rotation. Obviously Nikki Novo's too, every Tuesday and Thursday as well. So those are like the four. I have some episodes I have to catch up on, but those are them.
Love. Those are all good ones. Those are all in my library too.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you could, well, we're going to talk a little bit later, but if you could work with anyone, living or no longer living, in any capacity,
Yes.
who would it be?
Oof. Okay. I'm going to do more than one because I'm just complicated. So,
Sounds like a Leo.
So the first one is J. Cole. He's one of my favorite rappers since 2011. So I would say J. Cole, and I love that he's like out of the spotlight, but like still cool.
He's very low key, huh?
Yeah.
I respect
no one
that.
knows. Yeah. So J. Cole, and then the second one would be Cleo Sol.
Who?
Cleo Sol. She's a singer from the UK.
Oh, okay.
Very soulful music. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, cool. And last question, if you could go to any concert for any artist, living or no longer living, who would it be?
Okay. I'm going to go no longer living because I feel like I am a huge concert person. So I've seen everyone I want to see.
You're always at a concert. Yeah.
I am always at a concert. Every other day, sometimes it feels like. But I'm going to go see Cleo Sol next month. Well, no, next month. In March by myself. So I'm excited about that. So I would have to say Selena is one.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
haven't had that answer yet.
Mhm.
I know. Bitty bitty bum bum.
Yeah, exactly. Selena and Aaliyah.
Oh, those are good ones.
Mhm.
Okay.
Can you tell I've been thinking about my answers?
Yeah, she knew.
I love this.
I've been ready
Oh.
for the podcast.
All right, that's all I got. Okay, how'd you guys meet?
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's like a dating.
It's
Like,
a
how'd you
dating.
guys
I know.
meet?
It really is.
Okay, let's see. So I did a workshop, a free workshop online a few years ago. What was it, like 2022?
End of 2022.
Yeah, end of 2022. Obviously, I was trying to find my spiritual community, and I said, what more than a free workshop? I think it was actually Nichole's workshop. And there was a few panelists on there, and I think that day Nikki was asking for questions, and one of mine was answered. I don't remember what it was, but obviously she was on there, and then I started following her, and then obviously you all started the podcast. I think I did a year ahead reading with her that year. So we've been following each other on social media ever since then, and then obviously she came to Boston last year, so we finally met in person, and here I am now in her city. So it's exciting.
Was that the same workshop that you met Maria, or no?
Yeah.
Oh no
Wow.
way!
I was same one with Maria, Lydia, and
Oh my
then
goodness!
yeah, that was a really expansive time for sure.
Oh, that was a good workshop. That was so aligned.
It was my first one too.
I love that.
Just like this is my first podcast.
I know. See, and you manifested this, so we love this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you let me be, or you agreed to be a guinea pig for me too a couple times. So I did love that.
Yes, and fun fact, I still listen to that recording from time to time.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you know this or not, Nichole, but Dad gave Lydia a reading.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. How'd that go?
We're still, I feel like some things are still coming through.
Yeah. That sounds about right for a seer. Usually they're like looking 2 to 3 years out into the future.
It was late last year. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Cool. All right. Well, did we like strong arm you into coming, or no? You were kind of like open to it, right?
The what?
Did we strong arm you? Like, did we kind of force you into it? Or
no, I think I was in the chapter of my life where I was like, yes, any and all readings, give them to me.
Okay. But then to come on the podcast, we just
yeah.
Oh, it was just kind of random, right? It was like, hey, let's have Lydia.
It was very
on.
out of the blue. I was like, what? Me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, and then we texted you, and you're like, yeah.
I asked first, are you sure me?
Yeah.
And then you were like, yes. I was like, okay, fine, let's do it.
Yeah. And then we were trying to figure out what we would talk about. So what we decided was, which I think would be really helpful, is to getting another perspective on what a spiritual awakening can be like, because I feel like everybody's is so different. And I would say probably most of the people that are listening have listened to ours, episode 2, back in the underwater days. Go ahead and listen to that one. Or don't. I mean, it's fine. I feel like we're probably hopefully a lot better than episode 2. So it's, go listen to it, whatever. So we thought that would kind of be a fun topic to talk about, because everybody's is so interesting. I think everybody's starts for so many different reasons. So what we're going to kind of talk about is like, what was yours like, and just kind of you walking us through that process for you.
Yeah, so I'm in my 30s now, so I'm finally on the other side of it. Thank goodness, because, well, baby. But mine actually started during the pandemic, so like 2020, I would say, which, of course, funny enough, or not funny, because no coincidences, right? But that was the start of my Saturn return. So I was 27 years old. At the time, I didn't know what a Saturn return was. I wasn't sure what was happening. I was just like, I don't feel like myself. Like, what am I doing? Am I on the right path? And then the pandemic hit, and that just obviously doesn't help, right? Because I think it was a hard time for everyone. That was probably what I started therapy around the same time too. So that kind of was like the catalyst for everything, of like me going into the direction of healing and figuring out like what was happening with me. And I think at the time I had a reading, my like first big reading, right, as a big girl, with a friend of mine, and he was like very on point in terms of like how I was feeling, and I was like, oh my goodness. But then I also realized that I was very into everything spiritual. At the time, I was on Instagram Live every Sunday. I think Janae Aiko Janae Eiko was doing a sound bowl like every Sunday for like 3 or 4 hours. So I would just lock myself. I was living with roommates at the time, so I would just lock myself in my room and listen to her lives about sound baths, they were actual sound baths. And I just remember being like, yeah, and everyone thinks I'm crazy because I'm doing this, but like this is so much fun for me. Like I could do this for hours. I could do this for days. So that was kind of like the start of it.
You know, a couple things came up when you were talking. Did I lose them already? 2020. Pandemic. I do love a sound bath. Oh, I feel like for some of us, if you can kind of look back, you can notice that there were maybe always signs of you being spiritual, right? Whether for like you said you were doing, that every Sunday. But if you look back even further to being a child, were there things that used to interest you as a child? Like I used to love watching Sylvia Brown on Montel as a child. Like those were my favorite episodes. So even as a kid, I was always into that. Was there anything that like in your childhood that sticks out? Like, oh yeah, I was probably always going to be a spiritual person, or I was a spiritual person from day one.
Yeah, I mean, looking back now that you say, we were actually talking about this yesterday. Mood rings. Do you remember the mood rings that like depending on how you would feel, they would change colors?
Or the magic 8 balls.
I didn't have a magic 8 ball, but definitely the mood rings. Like how would I feel? And so it's like as I'm wearing like all my rings like crystals and evil eye. I felt like I always knew, like when I like knew things, it was kind of hard for me to explain how I knew them. So thinking back, that was one thing. And then another was I was really good at manifesting.
Oh.
Can I just say something from an astrological perspective that I just learned? People who have a lot of fire in their chart are fantastic at manifesting.
Oh, interesting. I wonder what's behind that.
I don't know.
I think it's an elemental thing.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to say was I didn't know what a Saturn return was either until Gab started doing her birth chart readings and gave me a birth chart as a guinea pig. And I'm like, wait, what is this? And she had to describe it to me. I didn't know what that was until 2021?
Probably 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is a Saturn return?
Oh, are you asking me or Lydia?
You, Gabs.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So Saturn return, a return in general is when a planet comes back to its starting point where it was in a chart at the moment of your birth. And every planet takes a certain amount of time to orbit around the sun or to come back to its starting point. And Saturn takes 27 to 30 years. So when it comes back to that point, making a full orbit, you're going to go through and experience whatever it is that planet represents, and also where it falls within your chart, which is like the houses. So the houses represent different themes. So whatever, themes that are coming up during that Saturn return, it's a very karmic, fated period of time. And it's like, if you're not on path and doing what you're supposed to be doing, that Saturn return is going to put you on path. And it's also very much related to like, it's kind of like an exit point as well. So there's this saying, the 27 Club, we've talked about this. It's like if you're checked out, like that 27 Club, that orbit, it's going to take you to another dimension. You'll probably have to come back depending on your contracts.
Oh, I feel like we've talked about this before. Like I know this isn't the first time you described it, but I don't think I understood that it happens in a different house. I mean, that makes sense though, that it would happen in a different house for everybody. What house was mine in?
Yeah, I was like,
I think yours was in the 9th, Nichole, because that's when you finished college.
Oh.
And
what is you went the 9th house?
Universities, higher forms of thinking, like Akashic records, schooling. It makes sense.
Okay. So they're not always like super bad?
No, it just depends on everyone's own experience. Like mine was really hard, but I think yours was, you had enough trauma before that. You were fine. You were good on your return.
I had enough trauma. They're like, we'll spare her during this time.
Yeah, I was not in alignment clearly because I wasn't thinking of like the healing and bruja side of myself.
I don't think a lot of people do, right? Until they're kind of forced to. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what it was like for you that made you realize, oh, like something big is happening.
Yes. So I felt like I was like alone in an island on a bit. Like I obviously have some of the best friends in the world and like a great family, but in an aspect, I feel like some people weren't understanding what I was going through. So that's when I started therapy. So I really got into inner child healing and realizing that. So I think when I first started therapy, which I think you might laugh at this, I was like, I'm just going to do it because everybody's doing it. It's a pandemic. Everyone's going through it. I was like, everyone's going through it. So let me like go to therapy.
Join the club.
And I went into a consultation with, actually, she's a shaman who I visited recently. And she was like, she read me for filth during the consultation. I ultimately didn't at the time go with her as my therapist because it was she wasn't taking insurance, so it was a little bit more expensive. But I realized I was like, oh, I have a lot of trauma that I don't realize I have, and a lot of it around my inner, like my younger self and my inner child healing. So, yeah, that's kind of where it all began.
Okay. So when you went in for a consultation with her, did you know that she was a shaman, or did you just go to her because you thought she was a therapist and you wanted therapy like everybody else?
I knew that there was like something else. I knew that she was the healer of the healers. I had met her or found her through an Instagram of Brujas of Brooklyn. I don't know if you all have heard of them. But she was on an Instagram live on their account during the pandemic when all the social injustice was happening.
Is she the one taking a break right now, on and off? Or is this the one you just recently went to?
The one I just recently went to in New York.
Okay.
So I kind of found her. I was like, oh, a Dominican, just like me. She'll understand a little bit. And I loved that I was able to speak English and Spanish with her and both of those things. So I didn't realize that she was like a shaman, but I knew that she was the healer of the healers because she's talked about that. Like she was the therapist for the therapist.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was like guided to her, I guess.
So we've talked a couple times, also episode 2, and then we did a whole episode on Dark Night of the Soul. Did you experience that?
Every time we've talked about it, I've thought about it as I'm driving to work, and I'm like, have I experienced it? And I'm like, yes, it was 2020.
It was? Okay.
Yeah, it was 2020. I was like in a dark place and didn't realize it. I don't think anybody around me realized it.
What do you think it was? Do you think it was... because it's going to hit everybody differently. It's going to be something different for everybody. Was it for you? Was it career related? Was it relationship? Like maybe not even necessarily romantic, but just relationships in general? Was it just purpose? Like what do you think it was that kind of started it for you?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of everything. It was a little bit of everything for sure. All of the above. All of the above. Yeah.
And then, 2020 was just such an interesting time because I think everybody was probably going through all of those things at the same time. And we didn't have much to do other than like sit and confront it and figure out what was happening. Because we had nothing but time on our hands.
Right. And I also had 3 other roommates at the time, which, like it was great to not live alone. But at times I was like, I wish I was alone.
Right.
So I think it was a lot of different energies, and I was going through my spiritual awakening, which I didn't know at the time. And I just felt like it wasn't where I needed to be anymore. So it was kind of difficult to sometimes like be in that energy and like most days be grateful for it, but some days be like, I need to get out of here and like live on my own. And which again, I manifested that. So.
Okay. And then what were some of the things that you started doing during that time to help get you on path or to move you through to get to the other side? Like, one of the things that, and I feel like I'm always in this phase, whether I'm in an awake, I don't know. I'm a sponge. I love to learn everything about everything all the time. So was that one of the things that was popping up for you, where you just wanted to like consume as much as you could to learn, or like what were some of the things that you noticed that you did looking back that really helped kind of get you to the other side eventually?
Yeah, so I got really into like my zodiac signs and learning what my sun, moon, and rising meant, and like going down a deep hole into that. I was following and I still follow her, which some people think she's controversial, but the Hood Healer. She used to go on lives all the time and do like Sunday service is what she called it, and she would just like read she would just give a reading for all the zodiac signs like in a row, starting with the first one, so Aries. And anytime she went online, I just remember like, oh, I need to run up to my room and like listen to it. And at first I was like, okay, this doesn't really resonate. And then it really, as I started doing the work, it started to resonate. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm on path. I was doing the sound, listening to the sound baths. At one point I was like waking up every day at like 3 or 4 in the morning, like the exact time, like 4:44, like 4:44, or like 4:14, or like 3:33. It was crazy, and I couldn't fall back asleep. So towards the summer, I live in Boston, so it's cold. But in the summertime, I lived very close to the beach at the time, so I would just drive to the beach because it was too dark to walk, and I would just sit there and like let the sun rise and kind of see like what I was feeling at the time. So I did that. What else did I do? I was just following everyone online that I kind of like. I found one of Nichole's, what's it called? One of her students, so Ada Rojas. Is that her name? Ada Rojas? Yeah, I think so. So I followed her Instagram at the time, and that's how I found Nikki, through her, actually. So again, I was just following like all these spiritual girlies, as you like to call it, on Instagram, and it found me to like the little community that I feel like I have now. So I feel like I was looking for that spiritual community.
Yeah, I feel like that's what it is for a lot of people, right? It's just, okay, where is everybody else that is going through this? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one. Or sometimes you think you're the only one, but then you start doing the research and finding more people and realizing, oh, okay, like, no, there's a lot of other people somewhere. And Nikki talked about that too on our podcast, how, you know, she really started this because she just wanted friends, you know, like other friends that were into this type of work and stuff too. And for her, she started off really focusing on spirit guides. Oh, that should be another question we ask people. Do you know your guides or like your spirit animals?
I feel like I'm trying to understand who they are. I know some of my ancestors in terms of like loved ones that have passed, and I know that they're looking out for me, and I know that they're like guiding me for sure. But in terms of like those that I did not know, or like animals, I'm trying to figure out who those are right now. We're getting there.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't remember if mine's a crow or a raven. Do you remember, Gabs?
They're the same, aren't they? But
No,
yeah,
they're
it's
different.
Are they?
It's a block, yeah.
Well, we have the same one, so I'm pretty sure it's a raven.
Oh, I thought it was a crow.
I also see crows. Yeah, so I'm like, I use both.
They're hard to tell apart. I think it has to do with their beak and then their size. I think ravens are a little bit smaller than the crows, maybe. Something like that. But the crows hold grudges, I think, forever. And I was like, yes, I'm a crow.
She's a Cancer.
I know. I will hold a grudge forever. All right. What was my other question that I had when you were talking about it? Let me think.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So as Nichole's coming back to hers, if you're on YouTube, check it out. You can check out our setup too. So since having your spiritual awakening, I think this is something I'm selfishly asking, because I'm like, oh, what's like everyone else's process in terms of how they navigate once you have that awareness, like how you're living a normie life. Normie is my new word. Thank you, Maria. Yeah, like how you move in the world, having, I guess, this new frame of awareness and consciousness, but like still having to be here. Because I think you do that really well.
That I do?
You're very grounded in that way.
Yeah. Probably because I'm like one of not so many. So I have to be a little bit grounded. I think it has a lot to do with like knowing, in terms of for myself, knowing that everything's going to work out. So I feel like no matter what, everything is going to work out. Like if I look back, I have like gotten over the hump of my hardest days, like the hardest days that I've had. And I'm like, how am I going to get through this? Situations, days. I went through all of them. So I know that when the next one comes, I'm just going to get over that too. So I just know that it's always going to work out. So I have that frame of mind of thinking. But I also know that like I have crystals in my car. I always have crystals in my purse. I have crystals all around my apartment. I have crystals on my desk at work, which is a very corporate job. And I invite people, like I talk about it. I'm not hidden about it. Like I'm like, okay, y'all, this is what this full moon means. This, like, you should cry it out, like this from listening from your ritual episode a few weeks ago. But talking about that, talking about, oh, like be careful driving. There's a full moon. Be careful. There's like Mercury retrograde is about to start. The post shadow period, the shadow period is about to begin, and the post shadow period after it ends. So I'm very honest and vocal in terms of going through my normie experience, and especially of those I'm surrounded with, but also like inviting them to my world, but knowing that I have to protect myself.
Yeah.
So when I go home, like I can't go to bed without cleansing myself completely.
Shower.
Yeah.
Shower and Palo Santoing. So I Palo Santo every night, which may seem extreme.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love that though. Yeah, because it's hard. You start like learning new things and new rituals that you can do, but sometimes it is hard to keep them going daily or, you know, because it does take time or you forget or you get so caught up in the routine of things. But if you make it a routine, it's a little bit easier. Yeah, I had bought some selenite, like little selenite sticks, and I had put them in all of the windowsills, and my husband was cleaning the windowsills and the blinds one day, and he's like, "Oh, what's this?" And I'm like, "It's the crystal, put it back." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "They're in all the windows." He's like, "Oh, they are?" I was like, "Yes, put it back." Like,
Did he understand?
Yeah, I was like, it's a selenite. It's for protection. It's in all of our windows, and you know, they're in our room and in his room, and they're everywhere. You just don't know.
Yeah, people know me now too. Like, if I have a friend or a coworker that is in Salem or like at a crystal shop, they'll immediately text me or like be like, "Oh, I was thinking about you when I did this." So it's also like, not hiding that part of myself.
Yeah.
Salem. Do you think that's a Leo thing?
Oh, say that?
Do you think that's a Leo thing? Because I think as Cancers, we were very a little like hesitant initially to kind of come out.
I don't think so because I mean this is going to be my first time like sharing my offering, so this is like my first like real come out.
That's what I mean. Is that a Leo thing?
For everyone who listens to the podcast, but I don't think it's a Leo thing. I think it's been a while, like 2020 to now. That's been 5 years, so I feel like I've been through it. Like I did for sure. Like at first, I wasn't this open about it at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, this is like within the last year, I would say.
Oh, okay. I think I thought from like the moment it started, you.
No.
Oh,
not
okay.
at all.
Okay.
No.
Thanks for clarifying. That's why I was like, like we weren't. Even starting the podcast for me was so scary because I was like so newly into it. Gabby wasn't. She had been doing a little bit longer, but it was scary. Like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think about me, and what are they going to say? And I don't care.
Yeah,
you have to get to that point. Like you do it enough, and then you do. It's like, eh.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think that's with anything, right? I remember I hated showing up on Instagram stories, and now I don't care as much anymore. I remember even
you showed up with the sheet mask the other day, and I was like, who is this? Like, who is she?
Yeah, I just don't care anymore. But that was something that was really hard, right? And talking about your beliefs sometimes can be really hard, especially like you said, you're in such a corporate position. And, we all have our ideas of what corporate means, and that being so different than if you worked at, I don't know, like if you worked at a yoga studio or something.
Oh my goodness, you just read my mind. That's what I was saying in my mind. Yoga studio.
I was going to say Starbucks, but okay.
I went to yoga studio, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned your offering. So it's evolved to where you're not just now interested in doing the things that you need to do to heal. Now you're actually going to be doing the things to help other people heal. So what are you going to be doing?
So I'll give you a little bit of backstory around that before I like launch it. So I think, and I feel like I felt this again. I guess I know, right? That's one of my clairs, but I've known that my purpose on earth was like to heal and inspire others. And I feel like at work, I'm inspiring others all the time and like healing every here and there. But I felt like I was still missing that part of my everyday life of like healing. So that's why I dive deep into this work. And I don't know what it was. It is what it is now. We're excited, but everyone, every reader, anybody that I've talked to has always been like, yes, like you're going to be doing this at some point. You're going to be healing others. And I love to talk. So I was a little bit nervous coming on the podcast, but I can't shut up now.
Yeah, once you get going, it's like, oh, this is great. I love this. Oh my gosh, are you going to start a podcast now too?
Oh my God, not anytime soon. Not at all. I'll come back anytime and be a guest. But when I was trying to figure out what the modality was, so I got Reiki certified a few years ago. Haven't really been like using it a lot, but I've been called to like bring that back. And then recently, so something that I always did for myself, right, was I've like my first deck was an Oracle deck, and then I bought a tarot deck, and then I have a few other Oracle decks, and then everywhere I go now, I'm like, that's the first section I gravitate to.
Mm-hmm.
So I pull cards for myself every night almost. And I started doing it for my friends like here and there. And every time I did a reading for them, I was like, oh my goodness, this was like very accurate. And they would like affirm that for me. I've done it, in every aspect of like, ask me a specific question, ask me for general, or like, don't even tell me what it is. Let me see if I can feel into your energy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So doing it in every capacity now, I'm like, okay, it's time. I got a lot of push from someone. For those that are not on YouTube, I'm pointing next to me. But I got a push from her. But yeah, I think it's time. So I'm launching tarot card readings.
Oh, that's going to be really good.
This is the official launch.
I love it. Wait, is this no, this wouldn't be the birth date? No, or what is she going to go by for her
I
chart?
think it'll be when she gets her first official client.
Like a first paid client?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, so you'll be, I'll be sending you all a link, so you can put it in the show notes. It's so funny because every episode, I'm the one going to the show notes, and now I'm in the show notes. Oh my goodness! So yes, I'll send you a link, and my books are going to be open soon. I can't believe I'm saying it.
That's so exciting.
So wild.
You're going to have to get to work because our turnaround's usually, well, now it's a little bit quicker. So you're going to have
time.
Yeah. The link is easy though.
Yeah, the link is easy. It's just the other stuff.
Yeah, still figuring out the other branding side of things, but yes.
Okay, so tarot card readings. Do you have a certain deck that you like to use more than the other?
For my tarot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have the Simplicity Tarot. And I got that because when I was first starting out, I didn't know a lot about the cards and what they meant. So they're pretty easy because one, they're like, I like the visuals. They're like, hip or whatever. But then also beyond that, they each card will have like one or two words to describe the card. And like, that's all I need to jot my memory. I'm like, okay, this is what this message is saying.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, tarot is still something that I haven't been able to quite grasp. It just seems so
complex, right?
So complex, so detailed. Like, I don't know if my brain has a capacity to remember all the cards and the meanings and the reversals and the uprights and
I feel you.
Yeah. What I also like about it though is like everyone can interpret it in their own way. Like I feel like if I pull a spread and like Abby pulls a spread, it might be completely different meanings, but kind of hitting towards the same theme.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody who is in the start or like in the thick of their spiritual awakening? Like, what kind of advice or like words of comfort or encouragement do you think you would give somebody who was like in it and struggling?
I love that question, and it's actually almost like I actually want all of us to answer that in a way. But actually, this is about Lydia. So
no, I want you all to go first.
I don't mind. I'm in it kind of right now, so maybe not the person to answer. Yeah,
we're all in it.
Yeah,
I feel like before I answer that question, I feel like I was telling Abby this year, like, you know how your Saturn return kind of like pushes you into alignment to like do what you're supposed to be doing and your purpose. I feel like this year's everyone's Saturn, like year.
Oh,
yes.
Can you speak more on that?
Say more.
Okay. So it's during your Saturn return, right? Like it usually starts again around 27, 28, right?
Yeah.
Depending on your birthday. And it ends at 30, 31, depending on your birthday. But I feel like it's whipping everyone into alignment. So if you are not aligned on something, the universe, you can't fight it. The universe is going to push you in the direction you need to go. And I feel like that about 2025, but I feel that with everyone. Like, even if you've already passed your Saturn return, if you're just getting started, if you're in the middle of it, like, this year is just going to like push everyone. It's going to be like that extra push that, like a faster push, I say, to get to where they need to be.
Do you think it's necessary?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to see so much of people that maybe like sides of the people that you didn't expect to see of those around you. And then obviously in the world, planet Earth is going through it if you really see like what's going on around us.
Do you think it's a necessary? Well, and then I guess it'll be different for different people where some people this might be a really good push.
Yeah.
And then maybe for some people that have like those harder Saturn returns, it'll be a little bit more of like a challenging time.
And it could be anything too. Like it could be friendships, it could be careers, it could be relationships, it could be something with yourself, it could be health, like it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's something to really like sit and think about. Like what,
but also not to be scared of, because
no, but and I think, right, just kind of embracing like, okay, maybe you didn't do what you wanted to do in your like literal Saturn return, but this might be happening again for everybody. So how can you like make the most of it? Because it really is all about like what you do with it and how you move through it. Right? Are you going to go out and try to find the community that you need to support you, or are you just going to kind of like retreat into a shell? You know, and not saying that, you know, maybe being in a shell isn't helpful. Like for some people that might be exactly what they need. Maybe in that moment community isn't what's calling to them. But everybody can have such a different experience depending on what they decide to do, what, you know, what practices they really lean on, I think.
Yeah, definitely surrendering in terms of like not doing the work, but like if you're feeling something, like chase that.
Yeah.
I wonder if we get to the end of 2025 and we're going to be like, okay, which year was more challenging or was more, I don't know, rewarding, whatever word you want to associate with it when you compare 2025 and 2020. Because I feel like even though they'll be very different in terms of outcomes, at least within the world at large, I feel like they still kind of have very similar impact and momentum. And I mean, at time of recording, we've experienced a lot in the first 20 days of the year. So.
And this year's gonna fly. Like I think while you're in it,
100%.
While you're in it, you're like going to think like, oh my goodness, this year is going, like what's happening? There's always something new every week. But I think looking back, you're gonna realize how fast this year went. Like once you're in the thick of it, I need time to slow down a
little bit. It's like I need more time.
It's already almost February. Like it was just the new year.
I know. I was just eating grapes under the table.
Literally me. I have a picture somewhere. Okay, so what advice would I give to someone? Well, I guess this is everyone, because like I said, I feel like everyone's going through some sort of a Saturn return. But I think it's really lean into it. Like, don't be scared about it. Like your ancestors, your guides, the universe wouldn't throw something your way that you couldn't handle, even if in that moment you feel like you can't handle it. So I would say, like, don't be scared of the unknown. A little bit of surrender, like I mentioned, which easier said than done till, like, even for me till this day. And I've done a lot of the work, but I would just say, like, lean into it and don't be scared. Like, if something keeps coming up, it's for a reason. So why delay your blessings?
Do you feel grateful for having had your spiritual awakening, knowing those around you are normies and have not had that same opportunity?
Yeah, and some of them have, right? Like very minimal of them, but I just lost my train of thought. Yeah.
That's really interesting while you're thinking about it, because, you know, do you think that everybody gets the opportunity to have an awakening and some people just choose maybe not to, and you know, oh well, I'm gonna just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, and some people kind of take the bait and say, okay, I'm gonna use this and actually make changes? Because if we're thinking about it, everybody technically really should be having a Saturn return, and if that's usually the time that it happens, I wonder if it's presented to everybody but not everybody bites.
So many thoughts.
So many thoughts.
Ooh, share.
Well, I feel like I'm not going to be nice about it. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah. Don't be nice. Be a Leo.
Be a Leo? Okay. I need to embody more Leo energy. It's so great. I love having Leo friends. How can you not? Like, how can you not question? Like, if there's something bigger than
easy.
You.
People just don't.
I don't get that. I'm like, how? Like, how do you not have that capability or capacity within you? And then I also think, too, once you do have some sense of awareness, even if it's the slightest when it comes to healing, and you know that it's something for you to work on and it's there and you don't do it, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass 10 times harder because you have that awareness and you're never going to find peace within yourself.
But if people don't have the awareness to begin with, how would they even know that it's coming back to bite them in the ass?
And like, that part I don't get, because I'm like, how? I don't have an answer for you, because I'm like, I don't know how people don't question. So like, and maybe it's because that wasn't my path, but
Well, a lot of
I think
people
what I
don't
forgot
question a lot.
I know.
What I forgot earlier was I don't regret any of my experiences. So I feel like I've been through like some dark times and through some tough times, but I don't regret any of it. Like I feel like I am who I am today and where I am today because of every experience I've had, and that includes my spiritual awakening. Especially like I think once I continue this healing journey and like healing others, like that's all going to come in handy in terms of like sharing my experiences with others. But I think, Nichole, like that's when you start to think of like your soul contract and like what you're meant to do this like in this lifetime. And if you don't do it, you're gonna keep having the same lessons. So I think if you're not aware, you're just gonna keep having the same lessons, whether it's in this lifetime or the next.
Because then I think about people who don't believe in soul contracts and they're just like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You know, this is my one life. I'm not going to come back. That it's just, they don't care. They don't care to like do better and be better.
Yeah, and that's hard to be around people when you want to work on yourself. Like, I don't associate with people who don't want to improve their lives in any way.
And some might be doing it without knowing it, right? Like, without knowing that it's a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I would say I didn't realize it was a spiritual awakening for me when I was in it. It wasn't until maybe not at the beginning. I didn't realize. I was just like, what is happening? And then it kind of started clicking into place where it felt like an existential crisis, which, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just.
It's because you had the time to sit with it. You were off, and it was like an extended period of time. And you're like, wait. So, yeah.
It's like something's off here. Yeah. But for people who don't have that luxury and they just kind of have to keep going.
Yeah.
I wonder if they miss the opportunity. Right? I think there's people who maybe miss the opportunity because they don't have the ability and the capacity to slow down, to really sit with it. And then I think there's people that maybe miss the opportunity because they just disregard it. So you could go either way. And then there's people that embrace it. And then there's people that kind of go like kicking and screaming.
Which one were you again?
Probably kicking and screaming. Rebel a lot.
And you embraced it.
I embraced it. Yeah. I mean, it was hard at first. Like, I think I cried myself to sleep every night. And lived with roommates and felt the most alone I've ever felt in that moment.
I've never heard a statement more true. I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if they're not in it or they can't resonate with what's going on. Okay.
Or agree.
Yeah, or agree.
True.
You know how many times I've heard, Lidia, you always think you know it all, or like not know it all in terms of like
self-righteous. You're so self-righteous.
Yeah, not like book smart and like not in that terms of like you think you know it all, but like I would hear whispering and be like, oh, like I know you're talking about this, and they're like, no, how do you know? Like, no, you don't. And I'm like, no, I know. And it's like I just always knew when a vibe shifted, when an energy shifted, like, and I would get questioned about that a lot. And like sometimes I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I'm going crazy. But like now thinking back, I'm like, no, like that you know.
Isn't that the hardest part about being? So do you think you're claircognizant? Because you said earlier, like the knowing.
Yeah, the crown.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my crown is very, very open.
Isn't that so hard? Because it's so not like you hear things or see things. It's just like, I don't know. I just know, right? Like you can just, like you said, you can just sense when something's shifted, which, I mean, if I think back to it, I would say that it was always really present for me, like in relationships. Like I could sense when something, even if nothing really changed, but it's like I could know that like they were cheating, or I could know that they were doing something they shouldn't be doing, even when logically, like it didn't make sense. If I tried to explain it, it didn't make sense logically, right? And then it's like, oh, you're crazy. And it's like, well, I'm not. I'm actually just, or it's like in the process of happening, right? I'm actually just really tapped in and tuned in to something being different, even though it doesn't make sense on the outside or doesn't make sense when you explain it. I think that's the hardest part of the claircognizance.
And then not judging it or judging yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. I always know when the vibe's off, whether it be literally in any environment. Like I always know. I always know. And I half the time have to like, you know, push it to the side a bit, and I can't act on that in the moment, but like I always know where I stand with others, even if they're trying to like hide it.
And that's so hard because like, how do you explain that? It's like, Well, I just got this feeling. It's like
Seriously.
the real world doesn't work that way.
No.
I remember we've been looking at applications at work for people to interview and hire, and there were just a couple times where me and my friend were doing it, and we couldn't like logically say what it was, but we're like, the vibe is just off. Like, the vibe is just off on this,
Yeah.
but like we can't put that on the form when we submit it. We said no to this person because the vibe is off, but it's just there's just this kind of knowing,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's not tangible, it makes things really hard.
Yeah, and in relationships too, like you said that you've always known in relationships. I've never been cheated on that I know of, at least. But I would say that sometimes in the past, I did notice the shift in the energy, and I still like stayed through it. And like those were probably the most toxic ones that I've been in. So also knowing now and who I am, very sure of myself, like anytime now that shift of energy starts, like I'm out. And most of my friends are like, "Oh, Lydia, you're the problem. It's you. Like, you just leave." Like, and I get that, not everyone's perfect and not every relationship is perfect. I'm going on a tangent now. But I just know that like there's a difference between working through something and being like, okay, no, this has definitely changed.
It's so funny because when I did that reading for you, that song popped up, and I feel like it's just so fitting for you. Like,
we were just talking about
We were just talking about it. I still don't know. I don't know the song, but
like the meaning of the song.
The meaning of the song for me, but I think, Nichole, maybe you're right. Maybe it's just describing how I am.
It's just that's your energy. Like
it's the Red Little Corvette by Prince.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What does that song mean, Nichole? Since you're here, what is?
It's just like you're really like you're like really fast, right? Like you're just I don't know. You're just quick. So like even when you're saying like now, just when I sense something that's off, like I'm going to act on it right away. Mm-hmm. I feel like it also kind of means like. The way I kind of interpret it too sometimes is like you don't get like so attached to like any one person, and it's just like you can kind of like move from one to the other like with ease and like very quickly because you don't have that strong attachment to it.
What's that like? I can't speak to that as a Cancer. So
out of sight, out of mind, baby. Definitely out of sight, out of mind. But I think that the reason why I'm able to move on, and not just in relationships, but with anything, it's like no matter their perspective, like I know I tried my best. And I know that I gave them my all. And I know that I did, like, I know it sounds like it's like fast and out of nowhere, but I did give them chances. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I talked about it in therapy, and I knew where I was wrong, and I worked on that, but you didn't do that part.
Yeah.
So it's also knowing your worth a bit. Oh, yeah. It's knowing your worth. Is that a download?
Yeah, it feels like it is.
It's such a Leo thing to say. Oh, I love it. Okay, that's all I have. What do you have, Gabs? Before we wrap up and have her do a card pull.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, people are going to be able to find you via the link in the show notes. Super excited about that. And I'm just so happy that this happened because you literally told me, I think this was like last summer, Nichole.
Literally.
Yeah, where she messaged me on Instagram. Sorry, I thought I told you. This is another one of those moments where Gabby interprets it one way, says another, I suppose. But you're like, I just have this feeling I'm going to be on the podcast. And I was like, actually, yeah, I could totally see that happening. And so for, fast forward 10 months later, and here we are.
Would have had you on sooner. All you had to do was ask.
I Chikara.
No, I generally even when you ask now, I was like, me? Like, why? So who knows? Maybe I'll be on again at the end of the year, and I'm obviously not speaking about what I'm trying to manifest yet, but since I'm a master manifester in my mind, or at least I tell myself, let's see if everything that Nichole I'm putting on my vision board is going to come into fruition. So
it is.
Maybe I come back on, and who knows? I'm going to add more offerings, and there's going to be more to talk about.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So excited for you.
But thank you both. Oh my gosh. This was so cool. My first podcast.
Yeah.
First of many.
You're a natural.
Yes, I'm going to manifest that for myself too.
So, okay, can you show the deck that you have and give us the name because it's so pretty?
Yeah, so this is an oracle deck. I know my offering is tarot cards, but this was my first deck gifted to me by a friend. But it's black and white. I love like the little evil eye, the hearts, the flowers. I love flowers. And then the side is gold, which I love.
So pretty.
I'm always wearing gold. So I think it's called Inquire Within. And this is what the box looks like. if you're on YouTube.
Inquire Within. Okay.
Yeah, Inquire Within. So I wanted my first deck to be an oracle deck.
It was really
Are
pretty.
you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What? So this is for the collective, right?
Can you do one for like us?
Oh. For like us three?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I'm just embodying a little bit of Leo energy with the ask. Why not?
Okay. So this one's for us. So this first one's for us. Cultivate stillness. Yeah, talking about that fast energy. We need to slow down.
Well, you receive in the stillness. Yeah, it's feminine energy.
Which I'm very in my masculine all the time. So
yeah, I think that most of us are.
Yeah, so we need to chill out a bit because it's just all gonna work out.
All gonna work out. Oh, one fell.
One fell.
Oh, another one. Oh, I guess that's wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to hold it up? Can you speak to it?
Listen quietly, which I think like goes with the theme of like spiritual awakening. Like, if you gotta do it in silence, do it in silence, but you gotta listen.
And you have to be still
don't know.
while you
Say that again?
listen too. You have to be still, right? I think those two kind of go hand in hand.
Are we? Is this? Yeah, hold on. This is not. This one's for us. This is not for the collective. Because I wasn't done shuffling. All right, this one is for the collective. So you gotta do that.
So that message was double for us.
Double for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Plant a seed and wait.
Yeah. I like that one.
It's a good one. Because I feel like it's all about like if you have this idea of what you think your spiritual awakening is, like dabble a little bit in it and see what happens.
Trust the timing.
Trust the process, baby.
Yeah.
I love this. Oh, this was so fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Nichole, I wish you were here so I can give you a hug.
Virtual hugs.
I should have been. I know, and it would have been the perfect weekend because Kelly was there too. And I was like, what?
Next time. I gotta come back, so.
Oh, we gotta go to Boston.
You definitely have to come to Boston. For sure.
We did like Boston. Yeah. I was like, I could come back here. Go to the Kennedy Museum.
But not drive.
The JFK.
I can drive.
Oh, driving was awful.
I'll drive.
And I had to drive the whole time. There was 3 of us, and I did all the driving.
This is true.
I'll drive.
Okay.
Or we could take the T, but Lydia doesn't do that.
I don't do. Yeah, no.
I figured out the system there, so I'm very proud of myself.
Yeah. Okay. We'll check out.
Oh my God, the famous.
Check out the link.
Oh my God, yes.
Book with Lydia. Yeah. Check
Are we going to
everything
say
out. Yes.
buy together?
Like 100%.
Okay.
Well, she has to. I mean, Shakara does it, so she has to.
Shakara, I promise it's all love.
Chikara's one for Lydia, so it really is all love, guys.
Yeah. Okay, ready? See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.